Hello, my crafty friends. It's Marie from Marie's Vermont Creations, and today I am casing myself as part of the October card Hoppin yearly hop from Handmade Happiness, and I am just showing you some of the products that I am going to be using for today's project to make this shaker card. The card I showed you in the beginning, sadly, yes, I still have it in my stash. I will link to the video up in the upper right hand corner to show you how I made that card, but that card I made probably 5-6 years ago, and I absolutely loved it, obviously, because I never gave it away. So to recreate that with a different spin, I am taking my card panel that I have already cut my circle out of, and I am running that through this with this embossing folder through my Cuttlebug. And I am going to take and put a piece of vellum on the back of this panel. But before I do, I'm lining it up with the panel, and I'm going to put it in my MISTI, and I am taking a Sassy and Crafty stamp set that had a coffee mug, like a to-go mug with a pumpkin on it, because this is going to be a shaker card, and I am using the PSL Season Sparkle Blend for this, and it actually has little to-go cups that have pumpkins on them, so I used that as my guide in how I colored this cup that I'm going to stamp down. So I'm using my Gina K amalgam ink, and I'm just going to stamp that down using my MISTI a couple of times to get a good impression. And then when I take it out, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to color on the back of the vellum. In my original project, I colored on the back of the vellum using some Sharpies. This time I'm going to use my Ohuhu alcohol markers. And then I used a stylus to press in to the back of this to raise up the vellum from the front. I just didn't feel that needed to be done for this particular element, the coffee cup. I thought it might be a little bit weird, so I opted not to do that step, but that's what I had done in my original video. So I am just coloring in, and like I said, using the sparkle blends that you can see over to the right there. I'm using those as a guide on how I colored the cup. So I'm just using some orange, some brown, and a green. Those are the three colors that I'm using that I showed in the beginning. And I did take my colorless blender to kind of push some of the ink back to where, because I got a little bit out of the lines in a couple of sections. So I do move that and then go over the orange section a little bit more because my brown and my orange were blending together. But when I flipped it over, you really couldn't tell. So just checking to see how it's looking, and that's when I decided I needed to do a little bit of orange to cover up where the brown had kind of slid down. And so you could do this with any kind of stamp set. It just gives it a little bit of a muted coloring to color on the back of the vellum. So now I'm going to take some double-sided adhesive and run it along in a square around this circle, and I'm going to adhere the vellum. If you wanted to make a regular shaker, you could do acetate instead, and then, stamp your coffee cup onto white cardstock and cut it out and add it that way. That's another option. But we are casing ourselves, and markers was the technique I chose. So I have added my foam tape. Didn't have you watch all of that. I'm going to adhere down this brown piece of cardstock. It's just a thin weight cardstock that I had in my stash to my card panel using some double-sided adhesive. And it's a full panel. And so I'm just trying to line it up with the card base so that I can make sure that everything is, covered and you can't see that white card base. So that little section to the side I do end up trimming off with my paper trimmer, so you can't see it now. And so now we're going to take the PSL Season Sparkle Blend and put some in the center. They do have these large beads which were rolling around, and so I opted not to use those. I'm just picking those out, but making sure that I have some of the coffee cups in there. So I'm putting them in my triangle tray so that I can pick out what I want to add. I'm not going to add too many more I know that some of my viewers get anxious when I use too many sparkle blends on one project, worried that I'm going to use them all. Because these are limited edition, once they're sold out, they are sold out. And I will have the Etsy shop listed down below if you are interested in checking out these products. And so then I pulled off all the release paper and I'm adhering down my panel. And I also took a piece of orange cardstock and used two of the circles connected together, words, oh, they're hard, and made my frame. So I am just adhering some wet glue behind that so that I can just tidy up the front of this. And then in my stash, I had these alcohol ink leaves, and I wanted to use these because it gave a nice tie-in to the fall theme that I was going with this pumpkin spice. So I fussed with that a lot, and I cut a lot of that out to decide how I wanted this to be. So I stamped out a sentiment from this same Sassy and Crafty stamp set, which I will link the name of it down below. And I am using some Spice Marmalade oxide ink to just ink blend around the edge of this panel just to give it a little bit of a pop of color, because the tone on tone, it got lost a little bit. So I was going to adhere this down, and then I decided to adhere one of the leaves down first, then put the sentiment down, and then put one of the leaves on the top to kind of break them and separate them from each other. And I just gave this a little bit of an angle cut on the end. And then I'm going to adhere down this leaf. And then I do put that extra leaf on the inside of the card, along with one of the larger PSL season cups from the blend, just to tie in the front to the inside. So I hope that you'll check out the next person that's linked down below, and check out everyone in the hop. And as always, I hope that you have a great day.